You've tuned in to Prepare, Defend, Lead. I am your host, Joe Prim. My motto for this year, 2021, was without fear, there is no risk, and without risk, there is no reward. So in a year filled with failures, what lessons did I learn? Stick around and we'll get into it on the other side of the intro.
The comfort and distractions of today collide to indulge our desires and provide a slow death by apathy. A superior primitive ethos exists. Prepare for tomorrow. Defend what you value and lead those you love. This mindset is the foundation of living an authentic life as a bold, disciplined man resolute in your mission. Prepare, defend, lead. Your mission. Own it.
All right, welcome back to yet another episode of PDL. If this is your first time listening, thanks for joining me. I hope that you get something out of this podcast. I hope that you get some value here. If you have been listening for a while, welcome back. It is humbling and awesome at the same time to be able to hang out with you, whether you're on a commute or doing your chores or sitting in the office, whatever you are doing today. Thank you for bringing me along and giving me an opportunity to share what is on my mind. So this will be the last podcast for this year. The next few weeks, I will release some awesome podcast episodes from Ever Vigilant that you may or may not have listened to. I'm going to dig deep into the archives and pull out a couple of goodies. But this is my last episode for the year. This end of this year really snuck up on me with having a couple of guests over the last 2 episodes. There were many things that I wanted to get into as we come to close out this year, including my favorite books of the year, podcasts that I listen to. We'll save that stuff for January and we'll get into it there. But I want to finish out this year talking about this motto that I had. But as I kind of fade into the distance here as this year comes to an end and focus on preparing myself to attack and get into 2022 to hit the ground running and make the impact that I want to and have my goals lined up and things well thought out before I get into the new year, get things organized, get things settled in, and set up a firm foundation before I ever get there. And that's why I will be doing this. I will be spending time focusing on my wife and my kids, focusing on preparing ourselves as we jump into what will probably end up being another truly chaotic and crazy year. So I will resurface, though, for a couple of events. These are really the first couple of events, one live event and one online event that I have done so far with PDL. On 12/11, which is this coming weekend, I will be doing a live event here on my property. We will be doing a 12-hour ruck. Yes, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., we will be walking and take no longer than a 10-minute breaks when we take a break. We will keep moving forward. The idea behind this and the reason that I wanted to do this is to challenge myself both physically and mentally to prepare myself for going into 2022. Does it sound crazy? Is it going to be difficult? You bet. Is it going to be a test? You bet. But with the right people by your side when you take on challenges like this, you build camaraderie, you build brotherhood, you build relationships that last a long time, because there is no deeper or stronger relationships built than the relationships that are built through adversity. So if you'd like to come out, if you would like to join us for this 12-hour ruck, either DM me on Instagram at Prepare.Defend.Lead or message me on Facebook or send me an email and I will get you set up with the details. Again, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., The cost for that is $25. That $25 is going to be rolled into buying some food to eat and for cool drinks to have at the end of the day at 6 o'clock. At the end, we will finish off here on my property. We will get a fire going in the chimenea. We will get the barbecue grill going, and we'll grill up some dogs and burgers to share. And we can have some time to talk about what we are doing and what we are looking forward to, what our fears are maybe going into 2022. We'll also have a time to talk through what we experienced through those last 12 hours, because I truly believe that it will be more of a mental challenge than it will a physical challenge. Now, if you can't make it this year, I completely understand. This is something that I decided to do last minute. I was going to do it by myself and decided, you know what, I'm going to throw out an invitation to those that have been around PDL for some time. I'm going to throw out an invitation. If you can't do it this year, shoot me a message anyway. Let me know that you can't do it this year, but you would definitely like more information and to be kept updated for next year, because I plan on doing this again next year. We'll learn from how things go this year. We'll learn from our mistakes, as we're going to get into in this episode about learning from our failures. We'll learn, we'll adapt, we'll adjust, and we'll hit things hard again next year. I will also be doing a virtual webinar this year. Last year, I benefited greatly from spending many hours contemplating 2021, of going over and evaluating the ups, the downs, the mistakes, the victories that I had had in 2020, some time evaluating where I was at the end of 2020, honest evaluation where I was financially, where I was with my relationships with my children, with my wife, where we were going, how things were operating in my life. And then after that, after you have honest evaluation, after you look at the year past, you can start to make those goals and decide where you want to go heading into the next year. Last year, I benefited greatly from this. This year, I will be hosting my own, because I was going to be spending the time anyway, digging deep into these things. I will be doing it via Zoom. Again, if you are interested, you'll just bring a journal, bring some pens, and we'll talk through these things. We'll talk about what we're going to journal about, what we want to write down, and then we'll spend quiet for the next 5 to 10 minutes, write down what's on our mind, what we're thinking. Then we'll go on to the next question. And by the end of this process of evaluating 2021, of evaluating where we sit personally at the end of 2021, and then we will all together, but personally, decide what we want in these certain areas of our life moving into 2022. The name of this podcast is Prepare.Defend.Lead. And a lot of people make the mistake of believing that preparedness is only being prepared for a flood or a snowstorm or the zombie horde, right? But truly being prepared means that we can be prepared in any number of areas. And one area I truly believe is important is to be prepared and ready to hit the ground running when we go into the new year. So on December 27th, which is a Monday, I will be hosting this live Zoom meeting. If you are interested in that, again, hit me up on email, direct message me on Facebook or on Instagram. I will get you the details so that we can move forward and we can start out 2022 and hit the ground running. We want to make a difference and know where we're going from day one. I have talked about in this last podcast that I did with Lucas Rubix, which if you didn't listen to, you should go give it a listen. Talked about the idea of the importance of having a plan of where you want to go. At the very least, a direction that you want to go in. Because once you have a direction, the moment you veer off path, you can course correct. We as human beings are going to veer off path. we're going to see a distraction or see a squirrel, right? And we're going to start chasing after that squirrel. But if we know where we truly want to be by the end of the quarter or by the end of the year, we can course correct from wherever we may make a mistake. So having a well thought out plan of where you want to go and how you plan at that moment to get there is of utmost importance in becoming a better husband, a better father, a leader in your community, a leader in your congregation, and to put yourself in a position to continue to grow day after day after day. So again, the Strength Through Adversity Ruck will be on December 11th, starting at 6 a.m. And the New Year, New Man live webinar will be on 12/27. DM me, email me, message me for the details. I'm not going to take the time here at the end of the year, since these are things, last minute decisions I made, to come up with invitation pages and forms to fill out. If these sound interesting to you and you believe that they will set you on the right foot moving forward into 2022, take the initiative, direct message me, send me an email, and tell me you want to attend and ask what the details are. These are the decisions that we make in our life that have resounding ramifications and can have a huge impact by making decisions to act now. As I mentioned in the intro, my motto for 2021 was, without fear, there is no risk, and without risk, there is no reward. So this led to, as you can imagine, a year full of failures. And as the failures begin to grow higher and higher, and the mountain of failures is staring back at you, and you see a small amount of successes looking your way as well. But as this year started coming to an end, I started to really wonder what a year with an attitude of taking risks anytime that they were available, always shooting for the stars, always taking the gamble, always pushing forward. What did that look like? What did I really learn? And it wasn't until my son pulled out one of his Lego books and started to read it to me. And in this book, they had a question, a line of questioning to see if you were perhaps a Sith Lord, depending on how you answered your questions, or if you were a Jedi or someplace in between. So it was a funny, lighthearted quiz with questions to answer, and each of those questions led down its own rabbit trail to the next question to see where you would end up. And as he progressed through these questions, for the most part silly questions, or what would be considered silly to me, he came to a question that I answered quickly, much differently than I would have ever answered it in the past. In the question that put me over the top and made me a Jedi Knight was, are you afraid to fail? And from the beginning of my new adventure into pushing forward and living a different life, like I talk about in my book Open, my answer to that question would have been yes. I was motivated by my fear of failure. But for the first time, when he asked me that question, my answer was no. I am not afraid to fail. Now, when I answered that question, I was even surprised myself. And it really stuck out in my mind how quickly I had answered that and how sure I was in myself that I was no longer afraid to fail. The problem is that most of you are living a life that you believe is safe because you are afraid to fail. Being afraid to fail is a bad motivation. It talks over and over and over again in the Bible. Do not be afraid. Do not fear. You see, as I've talked about over and over again in this podcast, fear makes it very difficult to make good decisions. It makes it very difficult to think clearly. It makes it very difficult to be rational. So fear is a negative. Now, does fear also help keep a little bit of a leash on us from doing things that are completely stupid? Yes. But fear, for the most part, is a negative. And just because we try to turn it around into something positive and look at it as, I am afraid to fail, we in turn start to think that we've turned fear of something into a positive. The best way that I can explain this is, I would see often when I used to watch the NFL, for years and years, I never missed a Chicago Bears game. Big NFL fan, fantasy football leagues like crazy. But one thing that always bothered me, and I found very interesting because it was consistent, was a team would get up perhaps by 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. Maybe a touchdown pass or run into the end zone, and then they'd recover a fumble and get a fluke touchdown, and then maybe a kick return or a punt return for kind of a second fluke touchdown in that first quarter. And rather than continue on their game plan of trying to win, they would fall back and play not to lose. And inevitably, time after time after time, the other team would score a touchdown in the second quarter and would score another touchdown in the third quarter and would score a third touchdown in the fourth quarter. And now the team that had for 3 quarters played not to lose was now again trying to play to win. And oftentimes it was too late. There is a tremendous difference between living your life to win and living your life not to lose. Now, majority of people around you are going to cheer you on and encourage you not to play not to lose. There's too much risk involved. It's too scary. You might fail. You might look bad. You might make a mistake, they're going to tell you. But the reality is, life is risk. Life is sacrifice. And if you want something, you are going to have to play to win. And I'm not just saying this for success at work or for money in your bank account or another boat or vacation home. It's the same way you've got to play with your marriage. It's the same way you've got to play for your children. You cannot play it safe. You cannot play not to lose your children. You cannot play not to lose your marriage. You can't play not to lose as a leader. You've got to be willing to say what needs to be said, to take a risk, and you've got to be willing to fail. Because at the end of the day, if you do, you will know that you did your best. If you quit, if you give up, if you play not to fail or not to lose today, you know where you are going to end up. You know that the best case scenario is that in 5 years or in 6 months from now, you will be in exactly the same place that you are today. If everything breaks your way in that apathetic way of life. But if you want to succeed or restore your marriage or restore your relationship with your father, you are going to need to take some risks. But the benefit of success will far outweigh doing nothing or sitting back and hoping that something changes. On a timeline, if you allow things to continue to move in the direction that they're moving, 1 degree to the worst every month, by the end of the year, you'll be 12 degrees to the bad. Now let's say you decide to go all in and play for the win, and you change that to only a half a degree to the loss. Or maybe you are able to level things out. And things aren't perfect, but you can see change and hope on the horizon of changing these things. You know where doing nothing gets you, because that's where you're at. That's what you've been doing. You know what's back there. What do you have to lose? I'm going to jump into 4 lessons that I learned this year going all in and every opportunity. Number one, it's not just a cute saying. It's not something to tell your children. It is true. Failure is a lesson. Each time that you fail, you will have the opportunity to get something out of it. And the next time, the next endeavor, the next move in that direction will be better if you use the lesson learned to continue on the same path. If you need to restore your relationship with your daughter and you invite her out for coffee, she says no. You learned a lesson. I'm not going to invite her out for coffee. What are my other options? Go to option 2. I'm going to invite her out for dinner on a Wednesday night because I think she's free that night. All of a sudden you get a yes. It might take 2, 3, 4, 5 rejections, but those aren't failures. Those are lessons learned on how to get in. They're like you need to break into a bank or a castle, and you're trying to find the weak points. Where can I access this? How can I get in? How can I break through? How can I find a place to heal and find a way to get past my past, the mistakes that I have made? How can I break through? And it will not be easy. It will be a challenge. It will be a fight. But with each lesson learned, what you at this moment may look at as a failure, but with each lesson learned, you will come closer and closer to your objective. Lesson 2, it will hurt. Just like learning to ride a bike, you're going to fall down. You're going to scrape your knee. You're going to scrape your elbow. You're going to hit your shin on that metal pedal and ding it all up. But the only way to learn to ride bike is to accept those failures and to keep moving forward through the pain, through the frustration, and to keep going forward and trying again and again and again. There were days this year where I woke up and the first thoughts in my mind were the insurmountable number of failures that I have sustained this year. And they called to me, "You're a failure. Why'd you put all this effort in here? What about all the effort you put in over there? Why do you think that you can make a change here? Why do you think that you can make an impact? Why do you think that you're making a difference?" Fail, 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 they called at me. And it hurt. It hurt. But I'd sit back and I'd remind myself where I was. Do I want to go back there? Am I content living my life back there? Am I content living my life where I am right now today? Or am I going to take each and every one of those failures that is laughing at me today, learn the lessons I can from them, and take those lessons forward? Take those scars forward and learn from each of them. Lesson number 3, screw your ego. Your ego is the enemy. That voice telling you you're going to fail, you're going to look stupid, people are going to laugh at you, people are going to think bad of you, people are going to question you, people are going to laugh at you. Your ego is your enemy. Even more so than those people that are going to point at you and laugh at you and think that you're silly. It's your ego. Do not let your ego get in your way. 4. Lesson 4. There will be a cost. If you want something enough, you will have to make sacrifices in order to get it. If you want to restore that relationship with your father, you are going to have to make some sacrifices. It is not going to be easy. If you want to get that new job, you are going to have to make some sacrifices, and it will not be easy. If you want to move to another state, or start a podcast, or a blog, or write a book, or learn how to become a pilot, you will need to make sacrifices, and it will not be easy. You've got to keep the end result in mind and keep moving forward. Lesson number 5. Fail, 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 and fail some more. The more you fail, the more that you will realize that those failures are nothing compared to your mission. Those failures are nothing compared to the vision that you have. Those failures are nothing compared to the value of a whole family. Those failures are nothing in comparison to having a restored relationship with somebody that you love. Those failures are nothing compared to the job that you need to have. Those failures are nothing compared to where you need to go, where you see yourself going, or what you need to get done in your life. Those failures will seem small. They will seem insignificant as they add up. And you will realize that those failures don't slow you down, but at some point, those failures start to fuel you and propel you forward. When it's only 1 or 2 failures that you're experiencing in a year, they seem huge. They're momentous. You think everybody sees them. Everybody's looking at you and laughing and pointing. And your ego tears you apart over those failures. But when you grow a mountain of failures, when that number of failures seems tremendous, you will realize that even in the face of all of those failures, that you were able to continue moving forward. Those failures didn't stop you. They didn't take you off course. And in the end, when there's enough of them, maybe you get to a point where they fuel you. They push you forward because you realize the sacrifices, you realize the efforts, you realize the failures, you realize the efforts that you have put into something that you believe in. That you have put those efforts and time and energies into something that God put into your heart, into your mind, into you before you were born. A mission, a vision that's hidden from everybody else. A mission, a vision that nobody else sees, and maybe nobody else knows that you have in you, but you know. And you can either listen to that little voice in your mind. You can either listen to God as He speaks to you and wants to propel you forward, or you can listen to your ego. You can listen to those around you who only believe very little of you because you've never proved them wrong. I hope that you receive some value out of this podcast, out of the lesson that I learned this year, piling up failures, that my efforts to pile up failures will result in you learning an invaluable lesson here as we get ready to enter into what very well could be another tumultuous year. We are living in the clown world, but the only person that you have full control over is you. You have influence on a small sphere of people that are around you, but the more control you have over yourself and the direction that you are going in your life, the more influence that you will have on those around you that you truly care about and that you truly love. I hope that you will realize that the fear of failure as a motivation is not a motivation. It is not good. It is not healthy. It is not the right motivation. You need to have a plan. You need to know what you want and what you're willing to do in order to get it. And then you need to be willing to make the sacrifices, the time, the energy, the money, the efforts in order to get yourself where you need to go. There are no shortcuts. There are no hacks. There are no easy ways of doing these things. You must be willing to accept the failures. You must be willing and 100% in to win it. Not playing not to lose. Playing not to lose is a failing strategy, as we've seen it over and over again watching a simple sports game. But in life, it's the same way. What are you willing to sacrifice? How foolish are you willing to look today in order to save something that 6 months from now may be beyond saving? I hope that this podcast also illustrates why I opened up the Strength Through Adversity Ruck to everyone. I was planning on doing it myself, and I said, no, I'm going to open this to everyone. This is important. I was going to do the New Year, New Man by myself, spend 4 to 5 hours by myself in quiet, working through the highs and lows of this last year, the lessons learned, the victories, the losses, the failures of this last year, where I'm sitting currently, where I am presently, and then moving forward into 2022, what are my goals? What are my dreams? What am I willing to sacrifice and fail in order to make succeed? And that's why I open that up to everyone as well. So if you're interested in either of those, direct message me on Instagram or Facebook, or send me an email. Let me know you're interested, and let's get you signed up. Let's get you set up. This is also a perfect time of year to start contemplating whether Heroes Wanted, my coaching program, may be what you need in order to take steps that you need to take in your life to take care of you, to stop pointing the finger at your wife or your pastor or your president and say, I have no control over those people. I have control over me. And I know that I am more. I often go back to where I started on this road. And for me, in my life, I had come to a point of great loss. And that was losing our house in 2008. And the lesson I learned from that was following everyone else's expectations in your life. What everybody else sees is your strengths and where you should go, and following along their path that they laid out for you can lead to failure. Upon success, after we lost our house and I was extra motivated when I finally got back to work after an extended period of layoff, and I succeeded and I hit my career goals. And I realized that my fear of losing my job, my fear of failure, my fear of that I had lost that house, that fear as a motivation brought me some success. But once I hit that success, I was really no happier or no more content, no more excited than I was before. In fact, if anything, I had won a race and didn't feel that I had won anything. And I had come to this crazy point in my life in my mid-30s of standing at the edge of a cliff going, is this it? I've reached a point in my life of the biggest failure that I could possibly imagine at this time. I failed my wife, I failed my kids, and I had come to a point in my life of the greatest success. And I realized that neither the failure nor the success brought me down or brought me up. I was still in the same spot. I was still looking and searching for what my purpose was, what my meaning was, why I was here. Was I here for something more, or was this it? Just from here, from this point, keep gliding along everybody else's expectations for me, keep going, and eventually I get to retirement, and then where do we go from there? And I decided that was not enough. I was not willing to live that life. I was not willing to leave the hero buried under these years of lies, fears, and expectations of others. And what I realized is there were still some embers burning within me. They were faint. There wasn't much there, but they were still burning. And I recalled back to, as a child, the desire as a boy to become a hero, to, in one way or the other, serve others, right? Because that's what heroes do. And I began a journey, a harrowing journey down that cliff to continue moving my life forward. And I've had failures along the way, successes, and as Ever Vigilant turned into PDL, we wrote a book, made podcasts, reached out, met friends, made great friends. As we've continued on this process, I've refined over and over again what the mission is and what the vision is here. And that's how this began, and that's how this will continue. So if you find yourself in a spot where you're not sure where to go, you're not sure what's next, you're not sure going into 2022 what that looks like for you, In fact, maybe you're like me and you want nothing to do with the new year because of the pressure that it puts on you to make some sort of change because you don't know what change to make or what that would even look like in your life. What helped me out, what got me moving in the right directions was the 6 principles. You can find my book on Amazon, Open 6 Life-Changing Principles, and those principles helped set waypoints for me to judge myself and understand where I was in different places in my life. And to this day, I still use them to evaluate myself, to have a better understanding of where I am lacking and where I'm excelling. Because as it says on the cover of the book, all 6 principles are easy to implement, but difficult to master. Will take a lifetime to master those. So maybe that will help you out. Maybe some past episodes of this podcast will help you out. Or maybe you're willing and ready to make a leap into some coaching. If that's the case, go to Prepare.Defend.Lead.com. Read through what the coaching program is about. Read through what Heroes Wanted is about and why it exists and why I feel that it is necessary and why I feel that it will help you. From there, you can fill out a short application, set up a date for us to have a conversation, for us to make sure that this is something that you are interested in, something that you are 100% ready for, and something that you truly believe in. Let's, in whatever it means for you, wherever you are at in your life today, begin to get yourself prepared for 2022. As I told my kids, I said, start to clean out the garbage in your room. Start to prepare yourself. What are you listening to? What are you reading? What is feeding you? What are you spending your time doing? Start evaluating yourself so that when we start 2022, we can start it on the best foot possible. As always, men, hold fast and God bless.